Chapter number 1, typical configuration of computer system. In this lesson, we are studying about some of the components of a computer. After studying them at the end of this chapter, we are capable of making a list of components required to assemble a computer system. So according to blueprint, 2 questions are expected. That is, for 1 question for 1 marks and 1 question for 3 marks. In the annual exams, out of 37 questions, question number 1 and question number 19 are expected from this chapter. Total 4 marks. So we'll start with a computer definition. Computer is an electronic device which takes input, processes it, and gives meaningful output. If you take an example of a student takes input throughout the year, then in the exam time, the student processes the taken input and the student will get the result as an output. That is same as the computer definition, that is input, process and output. So what is an input? The data or instructions given by the user to the computer is called as input, or the user given data or instructions to the computer is called input. Its opposite term is output. The information which we are getting from a computer is called as output. Then process is the work that should be done by the system. So after knowing the definition of computer, we move on to the next topic called as the terms used in computer system. First one, hardware. All the physical parts of a computer system is called as hardware. For example, keyboard, mouse, monitor, RAM, CPU, SMPS, BIOS, CMOS, etc. Each and every physical component of a computer is nothing but a hardware. Then, next term is a program. A set of instructions or a group of instructions is called a program. A set of instructions are written to solve some problem. Next term is software. A program or programs is called as software. For example, operating system such as Windows. They may be one huge program, or the software may contain a smaller many programs that becomes one huge program that you can call it as a software. It is a collection of smaller programs, or a single large size program is called as a software. The softwares are divided into two types. One is called system software and second one is called application software. Next term, data. The raw facts which can be processed is called as data. That is one definition. And another definition is data is a collection of facts, figures, or statistics which have some definite meaning. When you check out the SSLC marks card, you have 6 subjects are mentioned. In front of them, example mathematics is there. In front of them, some value is mentioned. Some figure is there. If that figure is by mistakenly is minus 80, mathematics score is minus 80, marks obtained is minus 80. Is it correct? No, because it is invalid. We know that subject marks starts from 0 to 100, but it is mentioned as minus 80. Means it is wrong. That's why I am saying that it may be a value or it may be a statistics or a fact which should have some definite meaning. The next one is the information. The processed data is called information. The raw facts are data. Once the data are processed, then we can call that as a information. It means computer accepts data from the user and it returns the information to the user. As in case of your, again, that SLC marks card, we have total marks also. It means total marks are generated by adding all the 6 subject marks. It means if you consider 6 subject marks are data, then total marks are nothing but an information, because all the 6 subject marks are processed. Processed data are called as information. Even the percentage mentioned in the marks card is also an information, because that is also processed data. The next term is user. The people who use the computers are called as users. For example, end users, programmers, database designers, database administrators, system analysts. These are all called as users, because all these people will use the computer. So this is all about the common terms used in computers. Then next we move with block diagram of a computer. As already we know that in the definition, the computer contains 3 terms, that is input, process and output. Here also same thing we are using. In the block diagram, we need 3 blocks. One for input, one for process and one for output. With the help of 3 blocks, we are explaining the block diagram of a computer. The 3 basic units we have here is, if you observe the diagram, we have, that is, one input is there, then its opposite term output is there, and if you observe the process, that is, we are calling it as CPU, it stands for Central Processing Unit. Again, if you divide this unit into 3 parts, that is MU, CU and ALU. The CPU is consisting of 3 units: memory unit, control unit, and arithmetic logic unit. All these units are interconnected to each other. Now we'll go one by one. First, input unit. The user given data or instructions to the computer is called input. The main operation of an input unit is to receive the data and instructions in order to solve a problem. The basic operation of this unit is to receive the data from the user and to solve the problem. It receives data and instructions in order to solve the particular problem. This is the basic operation of an input unit. The input unit is basically links the external world to the computer system. The input unit may consist of one or more input devices. Now we have continuing with the last two words, that is input devices. What are input devices? Because computer may have one or more input devices. Then what are input devices? Means the devices using which we can feed data or instructions to the computer are called as input devices. For example, the standard input device is keyboard. Other than that, we have some more input devices, namely the mouse, joystick, OMR, OCR, MICR, etc. Then next, second block, central processing unit. In short, it is called as CPU. The CPU is considered as the heart of the computer. The main function of CPU is to interpret the instructions in a program and executes them one by one. It interprets the instructions given by the user in the program and executes them one by one. Sequentially, it executes the instructions given by the user or the programmer. Next, the CPU contains 3 units. The first unit is called as control unit, in short CU. The control unit is used to control and direct the transfer of program instructions and data between various units of the computer. It means control unit is responsible for transferring the programming instructions and data between the number of or various units of a computer. Then second block is called as arithmetic logic unit, in short ALU. This unit is considered as the brain of the computer because the ALU performs any type of calculation or manipulations. It performs the arithmetic operations like that is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And it also performs the logical operations like and, or, not. Then the third unit of CPU, that is memory unit. The results generated from processing have to be preserved before it is displayed. It means when you go for any calculation, suppose I given the addition of two numbers, that is two numbers are 2 and 2, 2 plus 2 I want to perform. So I given two numbers 2 and 2 for addition purpose. The computer processes them and it has generated the result as 4. But before displaying that result 4 on the monitor, it should be stored in a memory. Then it displays. After storing the results in the memory, then it displays on the monitor. The memory unit is thus providing a space to store data, intermediate results, and the final output generated. It means after knowing that first point, you can say that memory is nothing but an open space. In that we can store data, intermediate results, and even the final output generated by the system. The memories are broadly classified into two types. Number one is called as primary memory and second one is called as secondary memory. The primary memory may contain RAM, ROM. In the same way, the secondary memory may be used for storing a huge amount of data permanently for the future use by using some of the devices like hard disk, floppy disk, CDs, DVDs, etc. When you compare these primary versus secondary, primary memories are temporary memories, whereas the secondary memories are permanent memories. The next term you come across, that is peripheral devices. The input unit, output unit, and a secondary storage devices are together called as peripheral devices. Then we move on to the third block of block diagram, that is output unit. First we'll define what is output. That is the information which we are getting from the computer is called as output. This output is used to print or display the results. The output is responsible for printing or displaying the results which are stored in the memory unit. The function of output unit is exactly the reverse of the input unit. Thus, you can say that the output unit links the computer to the outside world. Then one more term we will discuss, that is output devices. What are output devices? The devices using which we can get the information from the computer are called as output devices. The standard output device is monitor, and some of the output devices are printer or plotters, even the speakers. This is all about the block diagram of computer. Then we move on to the next part called as motherboard. The definition of motherboard is important for 1 mark question. Define motherboard, or what is a motherboard? This question has appeared in the exams, annual exams. So, definition. The motherboard is a main circuit board of the computer which contains CPU, memory, expansion slots, bus, etc. It is a large printed circuit board. In short, we can call it as it is a large PCB. Means motherboard is one of the main circuit board of the computer that contains many components that we are going to study in the later classes. So after knowing what is motherboard, now we move on to the next heading called as characteristics of motherboard. The motherboard has three characteristics. First one is called as form factor. Second one is called as chipset. And third one is called as processor socket. First, form factor. Form factor refers to the motherboard's geometry, dimensions, and arrangement of electrical components required. ATX is the most common design of motherboard for desktop computers. When you come across the term motherboard, it is a main circuit board, that is a printed circuit board. It has certain shape. That's why we are using a term here, geometry. And dimension, it means that that motherboard has some length, width, and depth. That's why we'll use a dimension. Then second characteristic is chipset. Chipsets are used to control the majority of the resources available on the computer system. And this also performs one more function, that is, it coordinates the data transfer between the various components of the computer. It means chipset performs two operations. One, generally we can say that it is going to control the majority of the resources available on the computer. And second function, it coordinates the data transfer between the various components of the computer. While purchasing the motherboard, always we should go with the recent technology chipset so that in future the updation is easy. Then third characteristics, processor socket. A processor socket is a rectangular connector into which the processor is mounted vertically. Or this can also be defined as a processor socket is an opening space on the motherboard where we can connect a processor into it. These are the three characteristics of motherboards. Then we move with the next heading, types of motherboard. There are 4 types of motherboards. First one, XT motherboards. Second one, AT motherboards. Third one, baby AT motherboards. And fourth one, ATX motherboards. XT stands for extended technology. AT stands for advanced technology. Baby AT stands for baby advanced technology. And ATX stands for advanced technology extended. On this, we may get questions like explain any three types of motherboards. Exam point of view, this is important. Or else, what is motherboard and explain any two types of motherboards. If two types means we can go with first two better. If explain any three types of motherboard means the best way is we can go with XT motherboards, AT motherboards and ATX motherboards. Now we'll go in detail one by one. First one, XT motherboards. XT stands for extended technology. XT motherboard means extended technology motherboards. Next point is these XT motherboards are old model motherboards. These motherboards contains DIMM RAM slots. Here DIMM stands for dual inline memory modules, and ISA slots. It also contains ISA slots. Here ISA stands for industry standard architecture. All these expansions are very important for 1 mark question. Expand ISA, expand DIMM, like that. So ISA stands for industry standards architecture slots it has. The next point is these motherboards have 12-pin power connectors. And the last point is these have slot type processors and no ports. It means this type of XT motherboards uses slots processors, but this does not contain any ports. That's why no ports. Example for this is Pentium 1 and Pentium 2 processors. This is about XT motherboard. Then we'll go for the second type of motherboard called AT motherboards. AT stands for advanced technology. AT motherboard means advanced technology motherboards. The AT motherboards have PGA sockets, that is pin grid array sockets, SD RAM slots. Here SD RAM stands for synchronous dynamic random access memory, and it has 20-pin power connector, and it also has two more slots, that is it contains PCI slots. Here PCI stands for peripheral component interconnect, and ISS slots, that is industry standards architecture slots. The full size of AT motherboards has 12-inch wide by 13.8 inches deep. And the example for AT motherboards is Pentium 3 processors. This is about AT motherboard. Then we move on to the next type called as baby AT motherboards. Baby AT motherboards. The baby AT motherboards have the combination of XT motherboards and AT motherboards. It means it is a combination of both XT and AT motherboards. It was the first PC motherboard to build in sockets for IO ports, which were cable to connectors on the back of the case. The example for this is Pentium 3 and Pentium 4 processors. Then next we move on to the fourth type of motherboard called as ATX motherboards. ATX motherboards. ATX stands for Advanced Technology Extended. ATX motherboard means Advanced Technology Extended motherboards. ATX motherboards are the latest motherboards. These all are called as ATX motherboard, designed for ATX or designed by ATX form factor. It uses ATX form factor. These ATX motherboards contains MPGA processor sockets, DDR RAM slots. Here DDR RAM stands for double data rate random access memory. It also contains AGP slots. Here AGP stands for accelerated graphics port slots. And these ATX motherboards have 20-pin and 24-pin ATX power connectors, and these motherboards have ports. ATX motherboards measures 12 inches wide by 9.6 inches deep. The full size of ATX motherboards are 12 inch by 9.6 inches. The examples of ATX motherboards are Pentium 4, dual core, core 2 duo, i3, i5 and i7 processors. This completes one last set of question of today's class, that is explain different types of motherboards. It means today I have learned computer definition. Computer is an electronic device which takes input, processes it, and gives meaningful output. Then you have learned some of the terms like hardware, software, program, data, informations, users. After knowing the definitions of that terms, then we moved on to the block diagram of computer. Again, that based on the definition of computer with 3 units. We have discussed that. Then we started with the next heading called as motherboard. One of the important question for 1 marks question. Motherboard is the main circuit board of the computer system that contains many components like CPUs, memories, etc. Motherboard is a large printed circuit board. Then after knowing that, we started with a 3 marks question, that is the characteristics of motherboard. In that, we have discussed it. First, form factor, then second, chipset, and last, processor socket. After knowing that 3, lastly we moved on to the heading called as types of motherboards. In that there are 4 types of motherboards. One is called XT motherboard. Second one is called as AD motherboard. Third one is called as baby AD motherboards. And fourth one is called as ATX motherboards. So this is all about today's class. See you in the next class.